You know, it's one of the most painful and confusing questions after a breakup, right? You've finally gone no contact, and now you're just staring at a silent phone, wondering what on earth is going through their head. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into that exact question and unpack the often surprising psychology of an avoidant ex when all that communication just stops.
That silence. Man, it can feel deafening, can't it? It just leaves you in this void, questioning everything. But what is really happening on the other side of that silence? Is it just indifference? Are they relieved? So what we're going to do here is map out the typical, and believe me, often surprising, emotional journey of an avoidant ex, all through the fascinating lens of attachment theory.
All right, so the first reaction, it's almost never what people expect. It's not this immediate wave of regret or sadness. Nope. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, that initial response to your silence is something else entirely.
And this might be surprising to hear, but the very first feeling is often just this overwhelming sense of relief. For them, it's like, phew, the pressure is finally off. All those perceived demands of the relationship have vanished, and they get this rush of freedom, a return to the one thing they prize most, their independence. It can feel like taking a huge gulp of fresh air after being held underwater. This quote from the book Attached absolutely nails the core of the avoidant mindset. It really highlights this deep, deep need for independence that can make real intimacy feel like, well, like a cage. It says, it is very important for you to maintain your independence and self-sufficiency, and you often prefer autonomy to intimate relationships. So you got to understand, when a relationship ends, it doesn't just feel like a loss to them. It can also feel like they've escaped a threat and finally gotten control back.
Okay, so they're feeling this relief, but how do they keep feeling it? Well, it's not a passive thing at all. To protect this newfound freedom, the avoidant mind starts to build this psychological fortress, using very specific tools to keep any feelings of loss or real attachment safely locked away.
And yep, these tools actually have a name. They're called deactivating strategies. You can think of them as these little mental tactics, sometimes conscious, sometimes not, that are designed to just push away any feelings of closeness. Their main job is to turn down the volume on that part of our brain that's wired for connection, making sure that any pesky feelings of neediness or longing just don't bubble up to the surface.
And these aren't just some random negative thoughts, you know? They are justifications. They're a story they tell themselves. They'll think things like, I knew they weren't right for me, or, ugh, they were just so needy. By focusing on your flaws, whether they're real or totally imagined, they reinforce the idea that breaking up was absolutely the right call. But here's the key. This isn't really about you. It's all about them managing their own internal world. So, with all these deactivating strategies running on repeat in the background, what does this actually look like to the outside world? Well, it often looks like they've moved on incredibly fast. But what's happening on the surface is a whole different story from the reality simmering underneath.
Dr. Sue Johnson, who's a total pioneer in relationship therapy, has a great name for this dynamic. She calls it the freeze and flee dance. It's this state of emotional deep freeze. You know, after all the conflict of a breakup, both people might pull back to escape the pain. But for the avoidant, this freeze can become their default setting. It's a way to stay numb and distant, to literally flee from the messy, complicated world of emotions. And this creates this huge, huge disconnect. On the outside, you see them thriving. They're hitting the gym, they're crushing it at work, maybe they're already out socializing again. They look strong, totally unbothered. But what we have to understand is that this outward strength is like a full-time job of emotional suppression. It takes constant effort to keep deactivating their feelings and to repress that very, very human need for connection.
And that's the real paradox here, isn't it? This quote is so crucial because it reveals the hidden cost of all that effort. All that work to appear self-sufficient and independent, it doesn't actually lead to more happiness. It's a constant, draining battle against their own biology, suppressing a fundamental part of who they are, which often leads to this deep underlying feeling of dissatisfaction.
Okay, so hang on, because this is where the story takes a really sharp, really unexpected turn. After a period of silence and distance, we're talking weeks, months, sometimes even longer, something kind of remarkable often happens. That fortress they built starts to crumble, and the ghost of the relationship can actually return.
This is called the Phantom X phenomenon. It's this bizarre, counterintuitive process where the feelings they worked so incredibly hard to suppress come flooding back, but only once you are no longer a threat. Only once the pressure of a real, intimate relationship is completely off the table.
This quote right here basically explains the magic trick. See, when you're no longer there, no longer trying to connect, the need to deactivate just shuts off. That mental program that was designed to find your flaws and push you away, it goes dormant. And with those defenses down, all the positive memories, the admiration, the love, it can all come rushing back. And sometimes it feels even stronger than before.
So how does this actually happen? It's a process. First, the distance you create provides this sense of safety. That safety allows their defenses to finally come down. Then, without that constant need to push you away, those positive memories can start to creep back in. And finally, over time, as all those negative justifications fade away, they might begin to idealize the relationship, creating this phantom X, a perfect version of you that only exists in their memory.
So if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. They don't not feel, they suppress. And that suppression actually requires your presence to work. When you remove yourself from the equation by stopping all contact, you inadvertently create the perfect conditions for all their suppressed feelings to make a comeback.
Okay, so understanding this whole cycle is incredibly important, but it's probably not for the reason you might be thinking. This isn't some strategy guide for how to get them back. No, this is a roadmap for your own understanding and, most importantly, for your own healing.
Look, knowing this pattern validates what you went through. It helps you understand that their initial coldness, that distance, it wasn't a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their own internal defense mechanisms. And that knowledge, that can free you from all the confusion and the self-blame. And it allows you to shift the focus back to where it belongs, on your growth and your recovery.
Your energy is so much better spent not on trying to decode their silence, but on investing in your own well-being. Focus on your healing, on your growth. And hey, if this explainer has helped you on that journey, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe for more content that can help you navigate the complexities of relationships and, well, yourself. Thanks for being here, and take care.